Hello, you're listening to the Neil Hunter Show. My name's Joey, and I'm joined by Paul.
Good evening, mate.
And Neil.
Hello, Joey.
And largely because neither Paul nor me want to ever go to Sixfields ever again, and Neil didn't want to in the first place, we've got Laurie on to talk about Northampton and all of the other associated things with that.
Yep, here by default. Hello.
How is everyone? Everyone over the moon about January transfer dealings and smoke bombs and...
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. Let's start with moments of the week. Laurie, you're the guest. What have you got for us?
Moment of the week. I think when they scored their third goal on Saturday, it was a massive relief for me because at that point I was thinking this game's been delayed for at least kind of half an hour already, and I was getting a bit worried about missing my train. So as soon as they scored that third goal, I was like, well, excellent. That means I can leave from any point now. I can go and I'll be able to happily just jump on my train. So yeah, that was good for me.
How close did you
Nice
get to leaving early? Because I gather a number of people did for different reasons.
Oh no. Ironically, I actually ended up staying till the end and a little bit beyond because I think the ref just when sometimes they take it into their own hands and they make an executive decision and they say, nobody needs any added time here. I think they didn't add any time at all. So it actually ended at about 5 o'clock. So that's fine.
I don't know whether we've talked about this on the pod, but I know that Paul and I have talked about it often, I think there should come a point where the two managers can, concede. Where they can just go, I'd rather not run the risk of an injury here than we just call time on the game. Where they can kind of just, and as well, for me, it feels like it'd have to be an unspoken thing, but they have to catch each other's eye and just nod at the same time, and then the ref blows a whistle and that's the full time.
Well, how do they catch the ref's eye? That bit might get a bit less subtle. When they're both staring.
Fourth officials, yeah.
Just walk up to the fourth. Once they've made that connection, they just walk up to the fourth official, and they both hand in a white card. A white card of. I think everyone deserves to go home at this point. Coventry is shit. The other team's going to win. Let's just go home. It's cold. There's things to do.
I think only we would discuss how to concede games on the pod.
No, we've discussed it during actual live games. We've been sat there and it's like, if only there was a way. In boxing, you throw in a towel. Surely there must be a point. We've all been at Cov games where you think, if we could, as a fan base, just throw in a massive fuck-off towel.
You know what our fans are like, though? They'll be there after 10 minutes. Oh, here we go. Fuck off. Game over.
Yeah. I want to be clear as well. I'm not on about after 70 minutes, but if you're 3-0 down with 2 minutes left against Northampton, you're down to 10 men. At that point, wouldn't you just be like, let's put a pin in this, eh? It just seems arbitrary.
That should be a cut off. Yeah, you should have a certain time after which you can then say, "I'm going home now." That's it. Towel in.
Yeah. Okay, fabulous. We've got that sorted then. Authorities take that
Rule
away.
1.
Yeah. Neil, moment of the week.
Ooh. I
love how after after 4.5 years, 2, but, 4.5 years, none of us are ever ready for this, are we?
No, I don't know why, because I have had a week. Ben Stevenson, the retention of Ben Stevenson will do me. I'm guessing it was down to the fact that Brentford got someone else instead.
Did you see who?
Yeah, Did I see who?
Yeah, they spent £2.5 million on Sergi Canos. But
yeah, that'll do.
But fair play, they turned down 700. He is worth more than 750, isn't he? And they turned it down.
What I always look at is just the amount of money money and time we spent developing this player.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what 750,000 get you in our current context? Nothing. It doesn't buy us a new player really, because all it does is mean it's more money for wages over the course of time. It's like paying rent for a house.
I wonder how much the academy costs to run per year. That would be interesting to know, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's probably just keeping that ticking over. But as far as benefit to us goes, I don't see much in that. It's not like we've already had, apart from maybe Wilson was a decent enough amount of money, I reckon, which actually probably went to a couple of signings, but beyond that, I don't think Maddison's money went anywhere, did it? Apart from just keeping things ticking over. So yeah, Ben Stevenson's still here. I can stare at him for a little bit longer. No.
Okay.
as the ball glides over his head in two directions.
Past the age of consent.
Hello.
Paul, who do you want to fuck? Not really. Who do you? What's your moment of the week?
I'm going to go with none of our players. About 20 minutes ago, I sort of went 90 minutes ago. It's like 90 minutes pod. Any questions? Any hope? Anything at all. And Mark Woods has just replied with nope. That's it. And that sums it up perfectly.
Yeah. There you go. So that's this episode done then.
Yep. Someone did say you just come on and just go. It's all a bit fucked. That'll be it, end of pod.
Yeah.
But that person should know we could drag that out for at least another 50 minutes.
Oh, yeah. We've done hours recently where we've had nothing to say. This week, actually, there is a fair bit to talk about, isn't there? So strap yourselves in for 5 hours worth of pure entertainment. My moment of the week is... Do you remember we've talked in the past about complaining about the way that people talk about typical City?
Vividly, yes.
Yeah. I think this week has been a genuine example of typical City fan. Because transfer deadline day last year was typified by everyone complaining about, the second that any bid comes in whatsoever, we sell our players. And I've seen loads of Cov fans this last couple of days say, this is typical of the club, this is. They massively overinflate the valuations of players and don't end up selling them.
I did see that actually. Quite a few people were saying, they're being greedy.
They're greedy.
God,
absolutely brilliant.
In that sense, they can't win, can they?
No. And this is the thing. This is why we get occasionally accused of being Sisu puppets and all that fucking nonsense and everything. It's not about... it's just about being reasonable. You can't have it both ways. You can't sell your players and complain about it, and then you can't keep your players and be like, it's ridiculous not selling them.
I was outraged that we held out for more money. It was possibly the biggest disgrace the football club's ever had since they undersold someone a year ago.
Yeah. The thing of all the fucking things that's gone under the radar quite a lot is I haven't heard people be absolutely livid at the fact that it's January and that we never replaced Sordell. What the fuck happened there?
You're quite cross, aren't you?
What?
The Sordell thing, I think, is criminally under-reported, under-assessed and under-thought. I mean, it's just how we've gone from strikers we had at the start of the window, which, let's face it, were shit. But we've actually managed to make our attacking system even worse and even more... I mean, the thing is, whatever we thought about Daniel Agoy and Andre Wright, is at least they'd managed to actually play a couple of games for us in the first team. The guys you sign now are rawer than the players we didn't rate. It's just... But to let Sordell go and bring in Bevan, and I'm going to throw this out there now because I just had a look at it. In Bevan's last 47 league games, he scored 4 goals.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a smashing stat.
I mean, he got 9 last season or something like that for Burton, but most of them were in the first 20 games. After that, in his final 33 appearances for Burton, he scored twice.
Oh, I'm staggered then at his finish in that debut because it was a really good finish. Maybe he just had a blinding moment of clarity, and now he's gone back to not that.
To be fair though, what it was a good finish. If you watch it, if he hadn't have scored, then he probably would have had to retire. Because he was centre of the goal with no one around him, and he didn't have to do Ryan Haynes put that on a plate for him, and he had to score that chance. If he hadn't have scored that chance, then it'd have been we're definitely fucked. He scored a goal that he should have scored.
You exaggerate, Paul. Watch it again.
I don't. Watch it again. He basically...
He's not dead centre.
If he'd have missed that, then it's what the hell are we doing here? It's sometimes strikers have got to score opportunities. That was one of those ones where everything was for him, and he scored. Doesn't matter, it was a nice finish, but if he hadn't scored it, you'd be desperately worried.
I love how nuclear you went on that. If he hadn't scored that, he'd have had to have retired straight away.
We're just not working off.
If he's not going to score that sort of chance, if you're not going to score that sort of chance, then what are you going to score?
he was still kind of far out. He was like outside the box, wasn't he? Like I know where you're coming from.
He was on the edge
of
the area.
It was like a good chance, and he scored it. But like I was surprised it went in still. Like
that's because your expectation levels on every Coventry City striker is set at about 1 out of 100. But it was a sort of chance strikers score. He scored a sort of chance he should score. Great. Since then, he hasn't done fuck all, but he did score in that game, and he should have scored.
If you'd have been at Millwall,
a lot of our players
season,
might be retiring before the end of the season at this rate.
If you'd have been at Millwall last season, Paul, you would have inevitably have been like, yeah, Adam Armstrong's goal was good, but look how far the keeper was off his line.
Mate, he scored, great, but, you know, at the end of the day, it was a chance he should have scored.
Yeah, you can tell the sniper to call his sights off now that he's put it in.
Jesus.
Let's wrestle.
But it's the other way around, though, isn't it? If the keeper lets in a chance he should save, he's absolutely hammered. If a striker misses the chance he really should score, they're always sort of, well, you know, there's always the next chance. There's always the next chance. He scored a chance he should have scored. But, you know, great, that happens.
But it's a bit different, isn't it? There's like a degree of like exactitude that you have to get as a striker to score. As a keeper, there are like a million different ways you could save a shot. But with a striker, like if there's a way it's going to go in, there's just a tiny little window that you have to fit it in. So I don't think that's like the fairest comparison, but I feel like you're going to stick to your guns on this one.
Oh no, Bevan, for one of like, going back to Neil's original point, yes, I still think replacing Marvin Sordell with Bevan was a shit decision. And from what I've seen of Bevan since, and also the style of play and the players we've brought in, the decision to let Marvin Sordell go and replace him with a 33-year-old who barely scores goals seems like a horrendous decision.
How do you think he would be coaching this team with this system?
Fun. How would Sordell? Well, I think we did discuss this the other week, and Neil did say that he would be able to hold the ball up, which I don't. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, he's playing two up front. Who are you going to play up front? You got Bevan, who's not particularly tall and hasn't. You might tell me he had a really good game against Northampton. I get the feeling he probably didn't. The game I saw before that, he went off at half time, having barely been involved. The game before that, all he did was basically bitch at the referee for 90 minutes. And alongside him, you've got Tug Guy, who again, you might tell me had a really good game against Northampton, but again, I'm guessing he probably didn't. And the games you've seen out of Tug Guy recently he's not that player. He's not a target man. So if Sordell isn't better than those two, and I'm sort of assuming he is because he's playing in the Championship, and what I've seen, he's far better at that role than either of those two. The option was you had to replace Sordell with a player similar to Sordell, someone who could play with their back to goal, who was a big physical player. And unless one of these two kids is absolutely awesome, or the big physical player, which by the looks of them they're not, then the decision to get the Sordell is just ridiculous because we haven't replaced him in any way, shape or form.
Have I missed something? Two kids?
We got the lad from Derby.
Oh, sorry. Vernham. I thought you meant that we signed two people on deadline day.
No,
Laurie,
did we sign from Watford?
Yeah, Laurie, the lad from Derby who Paul is talking about there, he played on against Northampton, didn't he?
He did.
I saw a version of the team that had him playing as like a number 10 behind Bevan and Tug Guy. Do you want to try and break it down for us, how it actually went down?
Sorry, I've just been sent a picture by Neil of Bevan scoring from inside the box. I stand corrected. So, how did Vernham go down, position-wise?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was an arbitrary link, like I try every so often. Basically, tell us about the Northampton game.
I thought we still had a few moments of the week to go, but no.
We're all out.
Bingo! Someone's having a drink somewhere.
Yeah,
go ahead. Take it away.
Well, the thing about Northampton, I don't know if you remember, probably do, because you went so much, but you're very low down, so perspective is awful, so you can't really see what's going on. And the only real formation people could agree on, I was standing next to a couple of your mates, Joey, was that we were playing a flat back four. And then after that, it was pretty unclear what was going on, mainly because the game got stopped so much and no one was really watching it. But I think Vernon was playing kind of like attacking midfield, like kind of number 8, number 10. And occasionally then he ended up in a position for their first goal where he was in a position where he could give the ball away in a really dangerous area. And then the place where he had been before was where the massive gap was, and their player got played in to score. So basically from in front of the front back four, I really don't know what formation we were playing. Like, Tudguy was up there, Bevan was up there. Bevan was unplayable all game, unfortunately for you, Noel. He was unreal. So yeah, I can't really expand any more on the formation. Game wise, it was very uneventful until Jordan Willis took it upon himself to get suspended for the first 4 games of his Rotherham career, which now hasn't transpired. But
how bad was it? Because I saw you describe it as being worthy of 2 red cards.
So yeah, I feel like the report I wrote, I got absolutely hammered in some quarters for it, so I should probably emphasise that I do like to exaggerate. But it was mainly because the guy behind me immediately, it's funny how COF fans work, isn't it, and probably football fans as a whole, they'll be the first to jump on the back of their team, but then on the other hand they'll be the first to defend their team when they deserve no defending whatsoever. So if we misplace a pass, suddenly George Thomas will be the worst person in the world. But then when Jordan Willis cuts someone in half, they'll defend him to the end of the earth for literally no reason. So the main point of the tackle was that the guy was going nowhere. He was just on the touchline, not even sure if he was actually faced towards goal. And Jordan Willis just went. It would have been fine if he wasn't so wildly out of control and airborne. Those were the 2 things that really made it bad. I think I think it is because he brushed the top of the ball, but it was just one of those ones that immediately, as soon as you're off the ground like that and you have 2 feet, I mean, any ref who wants to referee the next week has to send them off. So it just annoyed me because I just don't like listening to people defend and clap off Jordan Willis when he's just ruined everybody's day. Why do you have to clap him off? I'm not going to clap him off.
We do that a lot, don't we?
Yeah, it's one of my biggest bugbears. I remember going to Burnley and Craig Higgins got sent off for basically just swearing at the referee or doing something really innocuous off the ball, and everyone applauded him off. And you're like, he's cost us the game. He's not even like he's went in for a 50-50 tackle or he's just basically been a dickhead and he's got sent off and you're giving him a round of applause. It's just, and the Jordan Willis one, even if it's a bit of a harsh red card, you don't need to make that tackle there on that player at that time. It's just, he was, captain and all that sort of jazz, but it's just, as soon as you make that decision, you're asking the referee to send you off, and as soon as we go down to 10 men, we're a shit side anyway. We're not going to deal with 10 men, so it's instantly a loss.
Yes, I think you were saying in the pod last week, talking about how many late goals we were conceding, and obviously I wasn't particularly confident about the game anyway, despite how bad Northampton are. But when you're down to 10 men and you already have a fitness problem, and you've been conceding late goals every single week, so if we don't lose this game from now, it will be beyond a miracle. You're thinking we're not going to keep a clean sheet, we're definitely not going to score, and we have 10 players, most of whom won't make it to the end of the game.
Do you think there's an element of, I don't know how many of you have changed jobs in the last few years, but it is nice to have a week in between or a little bit of time off in between. Is it at all possible that he thought that the Rotherham thing was so certain that he was just actually, I could do with putting my feet up for a bit?
Yeah, possibly just to get some clear headspace to hang out with his GF and just chew the fat before moving up to the the glory land of Rotherham, the Chuckle Brothers.
That.
Well, also, there have been quite a few people who asked whether or not, do you think the club basically appealed because if he had got away with it, if they had rescinded the red card, it might have smoothed the deal to Rotherham through, because obviously they got a player straight away instead of him being suspended for 3 matches, which is now obviously 4.
Did the game get added because of the appeal?
Yeah, a frivolous appeal. So they had another game for basically us being stupid.
Hang on a second. Are you sure that that's what's happened? Because
I didn't see that.
I swear it said 4 cuts.
No, he has got 4 games, but it's that weird ghost game rule. So the ban doesn't. It's 3. It's some weird thing where effectively the ban is 3 league games, but he's also not allowed to play in the JPT. Yeah, so it's actually 4 games, but if it was 3 consecutive league games, it'd only be 3 league games. I'm sure someone will tweet us and clear that up, but I'm sure that's what it is. It's not about a frivolous appeal. It's the problem with the Checkatrade Trophy. You end up with an extra game ban.
This was the Stevenson thing.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, rather than being a frivolous appeal. But it's good that we've been hit with that twice, and as well, it means that we've got fucking nobody for next Tuesday, have we? Haven't we? Isn't it basically? It's going to be Harry's basically. That's like the only. It's like the only.
I just realised that's awful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the only centre back that we've got available, because I think Rawson and whatever ain't.
No, they've already played, haven't they? In the Checkatrade Trophy for Derby's under 23s.
He looks okay, Rawson.
Okay, yeah, do tell.
He's massive for starters, so he's actually what we need. And he's no worse than anyone else in their back 4, which is a relief. It was just disappointing and Vernon, I think, actually looked like quite a good player. He was so willing to get involved until he made that mistake, and then he kind of just kept on making more and more mistakes. But he was really lively and wasn't afraid to be on the ball. But I'm sure that'll be squeezed out of him in a couple of games when everyone tells him that it's bad to be on the ball, because then your fans boo you. But in terms of Stevenson didn't really get into the game much at all. Ryan Haynes got into it in the second half once everything was dead and buried. But we really had almost no chances whatsoever. They had a couple of half passable ones in the first half, but because the game was so interrupted, I don't really know how much it does affect the players, but it really seemed to, because just nothing was going on. Everyone was kind of just waiting for another interruption once the first flares had gone on the pitch. And they spent so much time just standing around. They must have actually been quite cold. And then in the second half, once they started scoring, there was no question that we were going to get back into it. It was just how many they were going to get. Brian Haynes was the only person who covered himself in glory at the end with one of his trademark runs into the box that almost resulted in a goal, and he also pinged some volley from about 35 yards, which the keeper saved. Poor little George Thomas got taken off after 25 minutes, which he probably relieved about with hindsight, for Kelly Evans for a tactical switch after Jordan Willis. Lee Burge made a few amazing saves, although, sorry Noel, his distribution very bad, but I mean, who cares about his distribution, to be honest? Our team's got so many bigger problems than that.
Yeah. And where was George Thomas playing then?
He was playing on the front of the right 7, 6.
So we're basically saying we played 4-2-4, sort of.
Yeah. When you're at ground level and it's so hard to see what's happening, because the sun's in your eye, not really giving a massive I was there at the game giving a great report, but it's almost you're basically looking through legs, and you can just about make out the back 4 because you're in line with it. But then after that, everyone's kind of a big blur of players, and no one's doing anything that makes them stand out from the rest of the team. They're all equally awful, and Northampton were too. They had no confidence whatsoever, but by the second half, they realised quite how bad we were going to be, and realised that they probably couldn't look themselves in the mirror if they drew at home to this 10-men Coventry.
I think that was quite similar against Chesterfield, to be perfectly honest, where It was two very, very shit football teams trying to make fewer mistakes than the opposition, while not really being that careful with what they were doing. But how was Callum Riley? He's another one. Obviously he was retained at the expense of Andy Rose, and obviously the new lad Vernon was in for Kyle Reid, or he's not really played Jody Jones in the league, has he? So how did Callum Riley, because he's one of the signings we've come up with, does he look any better than what we've previously had?
He was just, I just couldn't tell you anything about how he played. Like, he didn't do anything terrible. He didn't do anything that positive. He was nothing. Like, it was so hard to concentrate on the game because of what was going on. I really doubt if anybody was watching the game, particularly in the first half, because it was just so confusing with just random fat guys running on the pitch every 10 minutes.
What was the catalyst for that? Just for my mind, was it the sending off? Because I wasn't listening, but
yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
There were flares let off immediately in the wake of that, and then soon after that, they were on the pitch.
How do you get in with a flare? I once had trouble getting into a football match with a boost. Ridiculous.
They look really small, to be fair. I think it might be quite easy, but I've read some pretty funny articles about small children being used as flare mules to get into football grounds, which is kind of sad, but kind of amazing as well.
Now that the people who did the pitch invasion have obviously had their say in the paper, do you have any more sympathy for their cause, or I suppose not sympathy for their cause, but any more understanding of why they did what they did?
Yeah, having read those pieces, I felt a little bit bad for what I'd said, which wasn't it was obviously just me joking a little bit. But
can someone explain the pieces for those that might not have read them? Paul, did you take it? Paul, have you got a version of what they said?
I only really read it, and it was basically Sisu have dragged the club down, and they used to go with their kids, and their kids don't want to go anymore, and they basically felt like they were getting to the point where they wanted to make a stand.
You can reason anything if you've got time to think about it, though, can't you?
Yeah.
Well, I think my issue with it is, and I understand people take what's happening to the club in different ways, and people will then lash out or protest in different ways. The thing that got me was it was FA Cup 4th round weekend, and as you know, when we had the discussion after the Sheffield United game, I completely backed what fans did on that occasion, because I thought it was the best way of getting the message across, and I think it did it in a good way. And also, I wasn't particularly bothered that the Sheffield United fans got pissed off. My issue with the Northampton game was, in the grand scheme of things, on a FA Cup 4th day round when teams like Sutton were winning, Lincoln were winning, it wasn't the story. It wasn't going to break out into the national consciousness, because there were other bigger stories going on at that point. And if you're going to make a stand, it has to be a stand which is going to be recognised and then taken and become a bigger story. And I don't feel like the Northampton one has done that in the same way the Sheffield United one did, because there were other stories to be told on that particular Saturday. Also, I do get concerned that what you really need to do in these circumstances is have the fans of other clubs backing you up a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you're just going to willy-nilly disrupt games in the way that Laurie's sort of explaining, then you get the opposition fans just sort of, for fuck's sake, I've come here to watch a game of football. I haven't come to watch you run onto the pitch. And the other thing is, and I think this is my final point on this, is every Coventry City fan wants Sisu to leave. If Sisu don't know that already, then God knows what's wrong with them. The only Sisu representative at any of these games is Tim Fisher. And he knows that he's not liked. He knows that he's generally hated by every Coventry City fan. So you almost get the point of, you're not. What are you trying to achieve? Because if you're trying to achieve that Tim Fisher thinks that Tim Fisher knows that you hate him, I don't think that's a message you really need to do by running onto a football pitch. I think he knows that. So you've also got to be, it's got to be a case of, so what are you trying to achieve? Because the Northampton one, from my point of view, it's got another 2-page spread in the Coventry Evening Telegraph. Anything can get a couple of page spread in the Coventry Evening Telegraph. That's not where the story needs to be, and I don't feel like this one actually made the impact that I don't think it actually has aided the discussion at all.
And I think I agree with you on all of those points, Paul, and I think even those people who went on first, those lads who had their pictures taken, I have some sympathy with them, the ones who had the interview. What I really took exception to was in the second half, when what looked like a semi-organised, like, mass invasion, and you've got people who aren't kind of striding over solemnly to, like, wag their finger at whoever, like Tim Fisher, I think it is. It's kind of 14-year-old kids jumping around, delighted with themselves because they're on the pitch, like, smiling and, like, screaming and waving their hands at the crowd. You're like, okay, that is a odd form of protest,
what it is, isn't it? It's
like,
opportunistic.
You've just seen that you can do it, and now you're going to do it. And I just want nothing to do with that. I'm not ever going to run on the pitch myself and make a protest. That's just not how I would go about it. But I kind of understand those original guys going on there. But by the time it gets to just like too many cans of Fanta, 14, away from your parents for the day running on the pitch, like those guys, I want nothing to do with them.
But I think you've hit the nail on the head, possibly in a roundabout way there. Unfortunately, so in terms of the overall thing, if the first lot don't go on, it doesn't prompt that bit in the second half, because it sounds to me, and I'm going to massively assume here, that as soon as a few people go on, and then you go to half-time, and everyone gets to go in and have a beer, and they go, oh yeah, when we get the chance, let's all fucking go on the pitch then. Look, we cannot stand Sisu, obviously. We just, it sounds stupid saying it, because there aren't Cov fans that want them running this club. There's just obviously not. But I do think that this idea that, well, we're angry and we need to show it, I'm not actually sure that's not counterproductive. And I agree with you, Paul. I think against Sheffield United, there was something to it where it felt like there was meaning to it and there was a bit of purpose. But this just felt like it really, like, when you looked at the commentary of it, it wasn't, oh, Cov fans are pissed off. Actually, a lot of it was, because actually some Cov fans are bellends. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't particularly sympathetic. It was like, actually, there's a lot of people here. And I'm talking about in the Telegraph or wherever it was, about the idea of their kids didn't want to go. Actually, if I'd got kids, I wouldn't want to take them if there were people getting on the pitch and lobbing flares and getting the game stopped and everything, because it's poisonous. It's a really horrible atmosphere. And I think...
Go on, keep going, Joey.
No, I think I'd probably run out of steam as usual.
I mean, my thought of it is just, I think about if I was the opposing fans. And like, I've got sympathy for all badly run clubs, but if I was like an opposing fan looking at my fixture list and thinking, oh shit, Cov are going to come soon, they're just going to be on the pitch, aren't they? They're going to be there with their flares, they're going to be there causing the scene. It'll just put you off. And I know we've got issues, but I think it just comes back to sort of the merit behind it and what those issues are, and if legging it onto the pitch when things go bad for you on the pitch is the best way of dealing with it. Because if we were winning 2-0, I don't think people would have run on the pitch. No, it's kind of, and that's what, at least with the Sheffield United one, it seemed concerted. It seemed like they were going to do this, whatever. There was a protest, everybody was kind of behind the notion of the protest, and everybody was going to get behind it. So when there was that invasion, people were, even if you didn't do it yourself, you looked at it and thought, okay, yeah, these guys are fighting for a cause. But when it's kind of a reaction to something that's happened on the pitch, you're suddenly thinking, right, at this point now, I'm just going to run on the pitch. I think that's impulsive. That's not merited. That's not planned or with any sort of reason. It's just kind of, you're doing it because there's something to do. And I don't even know if that's a natural reaction to being frustrated. I can't say that when I've been frustrated at a football match, my natural reaction has been to run onto the pitch. I don't feel like that's natural. And while because of the situation we're in, there's kind of that excuse, ready-made excuse where we can do whatever you like, and it's, well, we hate Suzu, so we're making a stand. But there has to be a line, surely. You can't just put that excuse on absolutely everything. You can't act like hooligans and then just say, oh, we hate our owners, so we're raising awareness by doing, like, you know, raising all sorts of menace on the pitch. No, not for me.
I think Joey made a really salient point. I mean, we've got Bury, Oldham and Rochdale coming up soon. And obviously for me and Joey, they're virtually home games. And I've been and ahhing about taking Mary to one of them. But you get the worry that as Neil said, if teams, when you go to those places, if you've got that reputation, they're going to increase the amount of stewards. They're going to increase the amount of police. And as soon as you start putting more stewards and more police in the area with the away support, it always raises the tensions a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't want to take my daughter to a game where, for the worry that Coventry fans are going to invade the pitch, there's already that heightened sense of sort of risk. And I know someone posted about, in the 1980s, it's like we're not in the 1980s anymore. It's like those on-pitch battles in the stands and battles on the pitch, thankfully they're very much a thing of the past. And football's all the better for that. So let's not idolise these people who are running onto the pitch and making out that, you know, that they're fighting. I know we feel like we don't have a voice at the moment, but I don't think that is the way to get our message across, especially when it's then going to sort of, it could escalate. And as you say, especially away atmospheres are always different from home atmospheres anyway, because people go to away games, they're drinking on the way there. There's already sort of there's a lot more exuberance anyway. So I just we need to sort of, also the thing comes out of this, again, is like, you just look at it and there's about 5 different fans groups making comments about it, and you're just like, this doesn't help either. Why have we got to have 6 or 7 separate disparate fan groups? Why can't we just have the trust and then go from there? Why have we got to have sort of 3 or 4 other groups who've all got to make, and everyone makes a statement after and it's just, this isn't helping, because the fans are up in arms anyway. Every Coventry fan agrees we need to get rid of Sisu to progress as a football club. But once you start having things like this, and you get half of the fan base going, yeah, they've done the right thing, and the other half, like, they've ruined the game, they've done this. There's no continuity. The fans are as divided as they've ever been, and there's no one to unite against, or even unite behind, which is, you get these sort of random guys going onto the pitch, and it's like, this is our protest, and it's like, well, is this helping? Is it just everyone is throwing their hat into the ring to be the next person to say what everyone feels? But that's not really the approach we need.
One of the things that came out of the end, so on Saturday I didn't go, as we've said, but I kind of followed it on Twitter, as I've been wont to do in recent weeks when I've gone less, and there was a few things where you just, you put on there and, you say, this doesn't feel like the best way to go about it, and a lot of people come back and say, well, what's your plan then, Clever Dick, and everything, which I think is probably fair enough, but the problem is that it is complex. And I've spent ages thinking about it like the last few years, and I'm not very smart. But the one conclusion that I've come to recently is, I think the idea of this being antagonistic towards the owners of the club isn't working, because they aren't financially being distressed, and they weren't at the time where we could have had optimal opportunity for financially distressing them. And some fans, I was going to say some fans tried to do that. I hope you don't think that means me saying the massive fans. You understand what I mean with, like, not one penny more and whatever else. Actually, the time has come, I think, to actually go the opposite end and try and engage them. Ideally, to your point, Paul, it needs one voice to look to engage the owners of the club and say, you understand that we want you gone, but we need to actually understand the circumstances in which you would be prepared to sell. So rather than just demanding that they sell, at some point somebody's got to speak to them and say, this can't go on, but you need to explain to us what will happen for you to go, because they will have a scenario in which they will go, and that would be that it could be that they get back to the Championship or they get to the Premier League, but we don't understand the circumstances in which they would leave. And at some point, I think we've got to try and find that out, instead of just constantly kind of being like, well, maybe if we scare them into going. We've kind of, in the course of 9 years, everyone has tried a lot of very different stuff, to very sort of personally intimidating stuff towards Fisher. And I'm not saying it's wrong. Obviously, there's been lots of sort of water under the bridge and everything. But I just don't buy that people throwing flares on are going to scare them, or that does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not I think we've already learned that the things that you expect to have an influence over most owners don't seem to have an influence over this bunch of owners, which, to your point, means that they've got a different sort of end game to other owners, where it's quite money focused, but also football focused. I don't think there's a real football focus to what Caesar were doing, but it is a matter of somehow figuring out what they want to do, and I don't think we've ever figured that out.
Yes, and they don't really seem to be a logical entity in themselves, because even when Tim Fisher was on that radio show and he was answering all those questions, he was still contradicting himself like every second sentence. So instead of them being some like big, logical, evil corporation, they seem equally as kind of clueless as we are. So then actually finding out what they want probably isn't actually as straightforward as that, because he doesn't really seem to know.
Well, what it would take then, I guess that's more important, isn't it? So not what they want from the club, it's a kind of what would it take for them to go, and that's obviously a big question, because that immediately leaves them vulnerable. So they probably won't want to give that up, but just at least trying to find some information from them, just in terms of a roadmap or something, just something. So we've got some. Then we start to plan ourselves, and we can start to sort of mobilise ourselves in a more effective way than what we're doing at the moment. Because while it's kind of cathartic in a way, we're doing this stuff, and they're releasing steam. It's not having an impact in any sense, and that's the problem. I think raising awareness. We've gone past the days of raising awareness, because we've already seen that the people who we're trying to raise awareness to have no influence over getting rid of our owners. We had a chance a few years ago, and even legally, they were against us, and we ended up having the same owners back with a different name. So where do you go from there?
Yeah, if there was a white knight waiting to ride into the fucking sunset, that was the time, wasn't it? And no one got near their bids.
Exactly. What worries me is the people. I understand, and it does go through your head, and it's a massive quandary, and we've discussed it on air and probably off air more. Is the people who are sort of, let's just starve Sisu out, and I understand that argument, but what worries me is at what point. How far are we prepared to go, or how far are people prepared to go? Are they prepared to kill the football club to get Sisu out? And then who wins? Who's won in that scenario? Sisu haven't won, obviously, but if we won, if we start as AFC Coventry, if we won...
No, we haven't won, but also Sisu haven't really lost in that situation. It's the club. All the debt is tied to the club. They won't end up spending, and they can't with FFP. They won't end up throwing good money after bad. The second that the club stops breaking even again and that it's tanking, the way that those corporations work, it's not like they end up owing all that money and then they have to, like, they can't do anything else but pay it back. I don't think that they are in a situation where us trying to financially starve them, it's not them that takes the brunt. It's the club that takes the brunt. And I'm just not sure that people can square that in their own minds. They think that by depriving the club of money, they're going to get rid of the owners. But I don't think they actually lose in that situation. And the other worry that
I think a lot of people couldn't give a monkeys, though, could they? Because they think we're going down. So we're already down. And that's kind of, it doesn't matter. We can starve them.
Well, I want to make one final point and then pass it on to you, Neil, because I think you're the best place to, given your history and your stance on this thing, you're the best person to opine on it. But what my real serious worry is that we have got a situation where now no one has been explicit about this, but let's hope it's not happening, where there are people looking at the situation and thinking, let's try and force it back into admin again so that there's a way of acquiring the club. I noticed that the most recent trust meeting was around fan ownership again, and I hope that that is about a sensible way of trying to get the funds to do that, rather than to try and distress the club financially, because we've been down that road and it didn't work, did it? And I don't think anything would be different about it this time. Paul, you jump in again. Neil, I want you to take on that point.
The thing is, you can't... the only reason you can force someone into admin is if they owe money to someone else and they don't pay it, so you can then... But as far as we're aware, they've paid the rent, so any other debt is just to other corporations within CC, which was what the issue was last time. Most of the money that was owed, which is why CC bought it back, it was money that was owed to CC. It wasn't owned to banks or anyone else. It was all in-house debt, and you can't. So this is what was saying earlier. So basically, you can starve the club all you want, but all you're doing is starving the club. You're not starving CC. So if only 2,000 people buy season tickets, then next season our budget will be for 2,000 season tickets. So the players will get worse. And I always think that with Caesar in charge, it's very difficult. When you look at the transfer window that's just gone, the transfer window's been an absolute farce. And we haven't brought in the players we need to keep us up. And I think we're all resigned now to the fact that we're 8 points adrift and we haven't brought in... We brought in like a bunch of 33-year-olds and a bunch of kids who've never played football. And they're not going to keep us up. It's fact. That team isn't going to keep us up.
It's not fact.
It's not fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it sort of is, because if that team keeps us up, let's face it, we'll all be amazed. But
that's a very different thing.
No. Okay. But to keep the team up, you do have to bring in certain players, or you have to go around it in a certain way. And we haven't given ourselves the best opportunity of staying up. In fact, we've given ourselves possibly the worst opportunity out of that situation. We haven't given ourselves a really good chance to staying up, have we?
Well, I would say no, but I want Neil to pick up on this, because I think you know where I want you to go with it.
You're prodding me, aren't you? You're prodding me. There's so many different ways of looking at it. I mean, I think just going back to your point about just getting administration and the whole point deduction thing, my biggest frustration is wishing my life away, and just everybody wishing their own lives away when it comes to this football club. And we've had it for years and years now, where... when did this all kick off? Maybe 5 years ago it all started going downhill, probably before that. And there's always been this notion where, we'll do something now and then we'll fix it, and then next year we'll be all right, or we'll have another building year. And we always make these decisions sort of mid-season. They're always like, it comes to January and we're like, well, this season's gone, isn't it? So let's give up and then just waste another 12 months of our life and see where we are next year. And it's just, I think that it's that which gets me more than anything else. Just because we know what football is, we know how weird it can be. And it's just the notion that we've got so many games left. And yes, it's hard, and yes, we haven't given ourselves enough chance, but just to give up on 4 months' worth of football and potentially risk losing 10 points or whatever it is next season, you don't know how these things work, but it's happened to us before. Just to throw away next season as well, on the off chance that it might distress Caesar and it might ultimately get rid of them in maybe 3 or 4 years' time. I can't do that. I got fed up messing up last season, and then the fact that this has happened in this season is frustrating enough for me to say now, this season's gone, and let's get another points deduction. It's this constant deferral of action, or actual meaningful action that's going to be positive for the club. It's always like a detrimental step. Constant, we'll do this now and that might make it better. It's going to make it worse in the short term. Eventually, you're just going to keep getting worse and worse until the point where the club is no more. And that's where I feel we're going, while we keep taking these backward steps with the intention of hopefully something going right afterwards. Have to plan for what's going on happening afterwards.
I think sometimes I only agree with your stance on this to a certain extent, but on this one, I'm absolutely unified. I've seen people saying and heard people saying, what's the point of even trying to sign players at this late period of the window? We're definitely down anyway. It's fucking January. I think
people are more concerned about being right. They don't want to be proved right rather than maybe just thinking about what you can do to at least salvage a situation. And we do this all the time. We're so concerned with predicting what's going to happen. And we predict, we're not going to go up this season. We're not going to do it. And it's just these messages, these constant messages throughout the club. And I know there's pragmatism and realism, and you look at that squad and you think, how is this going to happen? But why are we always like this constantly? Even if things are going good, we're not going to win that game. We never win that game. It's just non-stop.
But isn't there also just the fact that you look at it from what you've experienced, and it's because Jim Brown on Twitter does it every so often. He'll be like, well, football's funny and things. It's like, it sort of is, and it sort of isn't. The reason I'm convinced we're going to go down is because I've watched this season. We're shit. And in the January transfer window, we had the opportunity to go out and buy or bring in 5 or 6 players that we desperately needed, and we didn't do it. And, yeah, I've written off the rest of the season because I can't see anything in that side. I don't see goals, but I don't particularly a lot of talent, and I see fucking awful football from the manager. So, to some extent, it'd be easier if we just got relegated tomorrow, so we didn't have to go through it. But I can't see how we're going to get out of this. So, the thing.
I couldn't see how we were going to mess up last season, Paul.
No, but I think, I think that's. I understand your point, but the thing is, I don't see this team suddenly winning 10 games. I just don't see it. Now, I happily be proven wrong, but at the end of the day, all I can do is look at what I can see in front of me. And I look at the signings, and as I said, Stuart Bevan scored 4 goals in nearly 50 games. He might go and score 20 and 20. It's highly unlikely because he's never done it. But these 2 kids might be the next Adam Armstrong. It's highly unlikely. So, where are we meant to get any sort of enthusiasm from? Because the fact is, it's like you look at it and there's nowhere to get enthusiasm from. Even if, when Slade came in, we suddenly started keeping clean sheets, and you're like, okay, at least we're building on something. We've got something to. We're still considering 3 goals away at North. I know the player was sent off, but we still got fucking hammered. Teams with 10 men have been known to hold on, yet we didn't. We got hammered. So
But I would say there is a huge difference. So I completely agree with everything you're saying, but there is a huge difference between assessing probability, either through statistics or through vision and empirical evidence, and resigning yourself. So if I was having to make a bet now, a binary heads or tails bet of, are we going to go down or not? I would say we are. If you take all the evidence on board, it would suggest that we're going to go down. But the problem is, there's a difference between that and then everyone going, what's the point in X because we're down? You can't immediately resign yourself in attitude and approach to the fact that we're down in January, and that whilst 8 points looks like it's really massive, it's in January, that's not a huge amount. Whilst I think it's improbable at the moment that we would go on a 3-game winning run, we can't. Like I say, sometimes when Neil says this, I think I disagree with it, or sometimes I agree with it. But at this point, we can't have the attitude of, we're down, that pervades all the way through the stadium and that just transmits onto the pitch. We've got to kind of go. There must be some way, because if we don't try and... Neil, I sound like I'm just impersonating you at this point. We have to try and trigger something. There has to be something that has to change. And that you're right, I think the personnel and the team, but that us just being apathetic in the stands, and me, I mean, I'm the worst of all. I've stopped going recently. But at some point, there's got to be something that turns round, because we don't have to be down this season. It's not that insurmountable. We can't talk about it like we're 20 points back and we've had loads of deductions. It's a lot of points, but there should be a way of turning it round. I'm just absolutely dumbfounded that it seems to be so like dead now. When you just think, how can it be?
But the other thing is, okay, say we remarkably stay up. Something happens, we suddenly start scoring loads of goals and we stay up. We're still going to be in the same mess. I think this is the thing that... The crux of the issue is the club's going nowhere, and apart from downwards. And it's been going downwards for a long time. And even if we stay up this season, you're still, the owners aren't going to pump any money in. The owners just... And I know that the rules for League One also mainly prevent teams from just throwing money at it. So Sisu aren't going to throw money at it, and they're not really allowed to. A lot of the fans, it's like, we're not going back until Sisu have gone. The only way we could get out of this, and I've said this continuously, we've got a massive advantage. In fact, we've got the biggest stadium in that division. If we sold 32,000 season tickets, we'd be the richest team in that division, and we would hopefully get out
by proxy,
because we'd be in that situation. Yeah. So basically, if that was the situation, we were selling 28,000 season tickets, we were selling out the Rico each week, we had all the money, and it was going on the players, and we were the best team. But the fans aren't going to come because they don't trust... we wouldn't sell 20,000 season tickets because we don't have, A, the fans who are interested, because most of them are apathetic. B, if we did manage to go around and get 18,000 fans going, you can come, they'll go, what's going to stop Sisu taking the money out? Because that's what they believe happens anyway, because people believe that Sisu are taking money out of the football club. So... the fans aren't coming back anytime soon. They didn't come back last season when we were top. They're not going to come back now we're bottom. So, to some extent, what's happening on the pitch is possibly unimportant.
Well, why would we bother in last year? Why would we bother in criticising and kind of critiquing the matches if it was unimportant last year? Because the fans weren't coming then either.
Well, but the thing is, my question is, where do we go? Because we've got Sisu here, and they're not, by the looks of it, and we've all said they don't seem to be going anywhere. The fans don't want Sisu, so you've still got 8,000 who are going, and N number who aren't. Now, we have discussions with ourselves. If we get relegated, out of us four, who are going to get season tickets next season?
I mean, if we win the league this season, I'm not getting a season ticket next season. So that's me out.
Yeah, so, again, sort of season ticket sales are going to fall. If we get relegated, they will fall again. And Sisu will put in less, well, they're not putting any money in, so it'll all be on ticket sales, so it will get even worse until the fact we might be bottom of League 2. And then where do we go?
Can I chip off just a wee bit about the idea of us not putting money in? And Paul, I think you'll be happy with this direction, but actually... didn't we so I know it doesn't go anywhere near towards the transfer fees that we've recouped from players like Maddison and Wilson and whatever else, but didn't we pay quite a lot of money for Jody Jones? Didn't we pay for Jordan Turnbull? Like, we're not totally not buying any players or whatever. This is what I can't believe about this season, and where it becomes a point where you've got to go, let's have a proper think about this. Neil, you alluded to it earlier, or in previous pods, but when we were all right last season, we weren't really hearing Sisu a great deal. But now we're shit. It's all Sisu. But I can't help but look at this season. So bear in mind, they preside over fucking everything, and they need to go. But this specific malaise doesn't half feel like a Mowbray created one. He sold and let go players who were palpably good enough for League One because he had a plan of bringing in players that were better. Jody Jones cost an awful lot of money, as I understand it. Like a tremendous amount of money compared to what we've ever paid in League One before. And that hasn't paid off.
What does that mean?
Say again?
Roughly, what does that mean?
I think it's 250,000. Okay, I think we paid 250 grand for him. 5 Vincent, exactly, yeah. Because he was supposed to be 19 and he was going to rip up this league and we were going to be able to sell him pretty quickly for quite a lot of money. I could easily be challenged on that. I don't know that for a fact, but my understanding is that's 250 grand. And Vive Vincelots is perfect for it. Or like 10 years of Aaron Martin's wages. So the
players didn't leave last season, did they? For any other reason than we messed up what should have been a promotion season, and then Mowbray tried to completely change everything all over again. I would love to see the comparison of available budget between the two, because as we were led to believe in the summer, he had a whole load of targets. He was just looking to rebuild. He didn't hit those targets, and then he pretty much ended up panicking and getting everything he could get. But the players leaving, the players like Fleck, tell me that if we didn't get promoted, or if we didn't at least make the playoffs, or there wasn't some sort of sign that it was going to be better the next season, he would have stayed. Because of the massive decline we had, all of those players who we could potentially, if we were in the Championship, could have kept. That had a huge impact on everything as well. And I just think the money side of things, I can't imagine it's that vast between last season and this season. We had so many loans last season as well. It's not, and we weren't paying for them. Ryan Kent cost us nothing.
Yeah.
Well, the rumour is that John Fleck would have stayed if they would have increased his wages, and they decided not to. I mean, the thing is, we don't know, and we will never know how much the manager's hands are tied due to the budget put on him by Sisu. And, you know, you talk to people, and again, it just goes on what stories you believe and what stories you don't believe. In, like, when we had Marlon King, he wasn't asking for a lot more to stay, and they refused to increase his wages to match what Birmingham were offering him, and it wasn't massive. So we just don't know. But it's also, again, in the Mowbray thing, Mowbray fucked up this season, yet he landed on his feet the season before by bringing in players like Murphy, Armstrong. Virtually everything he touched at the start of last season worked. That wasn't anything to do with Sisu either. He got everything he wanted, and all those players fitted in, and it worked. And the start of this season, you know my thoughts on Aaron Martin and Aaron Phillips, but he could have brought in the start of this season players, and Daniel Aggai could have worked. It didn't, but it could have done. But to some extent,
so the only difference is the luck. So we hate life now because we're unlucky.
Well, no, but Neil, I mean, the fans want Sisu to go, and
correct.
Yeah, there weren't the protests against Sisu last season when we were top. But as I said, gates still weren't massive. We weren't getting the 20,000 we thought we were. We peaked at 18, very quickly went down to 12. And where do we go from here? We can keep looking at everything that's gone on. We can go back to the Coleman years when Sisu did actually go out and spend some money. We had a really good team, and he fucked up year on, year out. But at the end of the day, at this moment in time, for the game on Saturday, we're probably going to have about 6,000 there. We are bottom. We're completely adrift. We spent no money in the transfer window in January, and we bought in 2 inexperienced kids who have never played league, like 3 inexperienced kids, one of them which has played league football, the other 2 haven't. And we bought in a bunch of old men that no one else wanted. That's the situation we're in, and I can be as positive as I want to be about it. But my reality is, we were shit, we haven't strengthened. Or if we have, we've marginally strengthened with players who are either over the hill, or we don't know how good they are. And we've got a manager who's playing fucking awful football.
I don't quite know where you're going though. So, let's presume Sisu stay next season, regardless. We've got Sisu. Do you want to stay up or go down?
What I want is Sisu to go. But I don't know how
the football's irrelevant. It's all.
Well, no, but I don't. Again, Neil, I don't know what you want me to say, because I don't know where we're going to go with this, because we all want Sisu to go. Ideally, we'd stay up, but we haven't. You know, the owners haven't given us the best opportunity of staying up. So we'll go. We'll watch the next 18 games, whatever it is, and most likely, in my opinion, we will get relegated. And then we'll be a League 2 club. And according to the Trust, the last meeting they had like however many season ticket holders, and none of them said they will renew. And you keep seeing that everywhere, that people aren't going to renew season tickets. So we'll have even less budget next season. So then where do we go? We just continue to slide. And that, you know, we're not going anywhere as a football club at the moment. We haven't got any leadership anywhere. On the pitch, off the pitch, in the fans, we have nothing. So we'll just go through the motions. I'll go on Saturday because that's what I do. I'll go against Wycombe. That's what I do. But I'm not thrilled by what I'm seeing. I'm not happy about what I'm seeing. But I haven't been happy for years. But I'll go. Next season, I don't know. If I walk away, that might be it. I might never go back. But there are other people in that situation, and I don't know how I'm going to answer your question, Neil, because I don't know what the answer is. But it's just, I'm sick of it. Everyone's sick of it. So we just go around in this circle of like, well, we're shit. Well, you know, we need to get rid of the owners. Yeah, well, they don't want to leave, so we go around. There is no answer. I don't know what the answer is. We were good last season. The fans didn't come back. We blew it last season. We all agree that. But again, no point looking at last season. It's almost no point looking at this season because we need a future. We don't have a future, regardless of what division we're in.
I think that's why the end of last season was so vital, though, because, like you say, there was this element of luck, so to speak, with like the loans, and they all worked, whatever, and they didn't work this season. But Mowbray then had a good season that had tailed off miserably, but he did have a pre-season and time to make future plans, and that was the big moment, wasn't it? What was he going to do? Would he like put something together that was going to last? Were we going to have more than 5 players on like 18-month deals, so people are actually going to be there? And when he failed to put proper building blocks in place there, that's why it's crumbled so spectacularly, because he wasn't just like filling a gap then. He wasn't just like keeping us up. He wasn't just like fighting against the points deduction. He was like being a real manager. And when it came to being a real manager, he completely messed it up. And now, when will a manager have a chance to do that again with us? Because it looks like we're going to be bouncing between bosses. Like Russell Slade probably won't be here next year, will he?
Well, the rate it's going, I would say no. It was the fact that he had a gall to walk away as well.
Yeah,
he didn't even attempt to try and save his own mess that he'd created. He looked at it and was just like, "I fucked this," and then he walked away to save his reputation. It does astound me how much he's got away with it. That I think he had that spell that was fabulous, and then it was wank for as long as basically his reign could be compared to A.D. Boothroyd's reign for that season. Like, it had a really good period, albeit that his was much better. I mean, like, much better, to be fair. But they just fell apart the second that it was tested. But at least Boothroyd had the decency to stick around until he'd seen the job out and got sacked. Mowbray saw the writing on the wall and was like, fuck this, I'm not having my reputation touched. You just think, I can't believe that it's still... Like, people can't look at it as being more complicated than being one devil at play. That there's not... People want one thing to point the finger at. And just to constantly, immediately go back to Sisu was the only thing this season, it just feels very one-eyed. It feels very destructive. He's got away with an awful lot as far as I'm concerned. It feels like we should probably try and either turn this in a direction or... I mean, we're at 1 hour 9.
It could be going to Wembley.
Let's talk about fucking Wembley.
Get the rest.
Yeah, I mean, Wembley then? Has anyone made plans for how they're going to get there first?
I'm walking.
Get the tube.
Yeah, you fucking southerner. You're walking, Neil. Paul?
You're going to an away game, Neil?
Defiance. Fuck you all. I'm walking through it. I don't care what you say.
Paul, I was talking the other day about... I remember beating Preston in that famous game. And then I and our friends Pritchard and Jimbo, who have often had mentions on here, and literally talking about the logistics of hiring a limo to take us down there. We were like, yeah, like if there was enough people between us, actually it probably wouldn't even be that expensive. And like if we met in Stratford, then we could probably get it from... Yeah. That worked out well, didn't it?
What are the figures? I'm very interested.
Oh no! I mean, to be fair, that was the thing. Crew, we got beat so comprehensively by Crew so quickly that it meant that we didn't ever get as far as even inquiring to it. I did book the time off work though. I don't know if anyone else did.
Yeah, I was there. Oh God, crushing! Have you all got your tickets for Tuesday? Are you going? Anybody?
I can't go.
I'm going.
Good. I'm away, unfortunately.
Do you reckon there'll be more protests on Tuesday? I'm worried about that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people will be there, to be honest.
Well, we know how many tickets have been sold, don't we?
They've sold, 4,000?
5,000 today, isn't it?
Yeah.
To this point, which is almost the amount of season tickets holders we've got.
Yeah, probably about right, yeah.
But seeing ticket holders could buy 6 each or something ridiculous.
What, nobody else bought 6? It was just me. That's just so I can have the road to myself.
like a normal home game.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I would have actually expected that you'd have bought them in a square around you so that you'd got coverage from all directions.
I'd expect Wycombe to beat us because they're not shit.
Well, and it's not a kids' team.
Good, aren't they?
And they took Spurs, a full-strength Spurs team, to a 97th minute winner. So I'm not counting any chickens about us playing at Wembley, to be perfectly honest.
To anyone that will listen, I've been deliberately hubristic about our chances. I've been as overtly like, no, I'm guaranteeing that we go to Wembley this year. just because it makes me laugh more than the sort of the self-deprecation. But again, like the same as what we were saying about getting relegated, if I look at it in terms of real chance, they're going to dump us out. Like, absolutely no problem. They've only lost their first game in a few months recently, haven't they? And then Wolves after that. Sorry, not Wolves. Spurs after that. They took absolutely to the wire. And the last 2 teams that we've beaten have been kids' teams. And we are, like, our under-23s. Somebody made a really good point about that Falevi chap that's joined from Watford. He's joining from a youth team that is lower in the league than our youth team. You just think...
Poor lad, and he's going to have to be slated before he's even arrived.
Yeah, I'm not having a go at him. I'm not having a go at him, but I just think he could be a really good player in the future. We have to watch him and see him and everything. But when us getting this far has been predicated on us playing 2 youth teams, and 2 youth teams that have been inexperienced wayfish players, which is basically all our first teams capable of playing at the moment, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you've also got, we didn't actually beat Swansea. We won on penalties. Yeah. And they scored for us.
Although, do you not think there's a little bit of delightfulness about the fact that the main problem with their team was that the fact that they got 39-year-old Gerhard Tremmel in goal and then they lost on pens? You're like, yeah, fuck you, Swansea. Fuck you, Cup, that we nominally want to win. Can I ask, I think we might have asked this before. Does anyone want to win it, or does anyone just want to go to Wembley?
I just want to go to Wembley. I'd quite like to lose to a team. Because who could we play? Is it Oxford? Oxford beat Bradford, didn't they?
Yeah, which is...
Only bring, 12,000 fans. So it'd be quite fun to lose to a team who we've got 4 times as many fans. Because we definitely sell out our end, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
But that would be so classic Cov if we lost to, the bottom tier only of fans whom we could barely even hear them cheering. We're like, oh, well, at least we got here. I
do just want the day. I really just want a day that it'd be really exciting and nice. I just think we as a group of fans deserve it. We deserve... I mean, you can talk about whether you deserve accolades and trophies and everything, but I think once you get to a certain point, there's an element of fortune that one game lends itself to. What is beyond doubt is we deserve a day where we can get together and people that don't normally go can enjoy, a trip out and whatever.
100%.
Or does anyone fucking deserve it? It's all fucking the universe, isn't it? Does anyone... does anyone want to go through anything else, or shall we wrap it up here? There's usually someone that will jump in at this point. I'm quite worried about the state of this then. Okay, let's wrap it up instead. Twitter is @NeilAmpteyShow. Email is neilampteyshow@gmail.com. Laurie, thank you very much for coming on. Remind us of your blog.
Yeah, no worries, mate. TheLonelySeason.club.
And thank you, Paul.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you, Neil.
Cheers.
And thank you. Bye.